In football, every game means more during the playoffs, and you can start your own personal playoffs on Underdog, where you could cash in on touchdowns, interceptions, yards, or more. All you have to do is pick higher or lower, and you could take home up to 1,000 times your money if you get your picks right. It's that simple. Millions of fans have already won billions of dollars making picks. Sign up for Underdog today using promo code ENDZONE, and you'll get a free pick as part of your first cash entry, plus up to $1,000 in bonus cash when you deposit. Again, that's promo code ENDZONE. Must be 18 years or older. 19 years or older in Alabama and Nebraska. 19 years or older in Colorado for some games. 21 years or older in Massachusetts and Arizona. And present in a state where Underdog Fantasy operates. Terms apply. Void in Colorado. Concerned with your play? Call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit www.ncpgambling.org. In Arizona, call 1-800-NEXT-STEP or text NEXT STEP to 53342. In New York, call the 24/7 Hope line at 1-877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY 467-369.
At Kroger Pharmacy, care is what's most convenient for you. Care is being here when you need us. We're open evenings and weekends. Care is helping you save more. Most insurance plans and discount cards are accepted at your local Kroger Pharmacy. Care is saving you time by managing your prescriptions online. You can request refills, check order status, and more. Care is convenience that works for everyone. Kroger Health, a world of care is in store. Services and availability vary by location. Age and other restrictions may apply. For coverage, consult your health insurance company. Visit the pharmacy or our site for details.
Now, The Hunt Palmer Show.
Yes! I feel like I've been waiting for this my entire life.
You're listening to The Hunt Palmer Show on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
Jolly good fun. Jolly good.
Locking down the middle of the day.
America's favorite daytime fun show.
Live from the Mercedes-Benz of Baton Rouge studio. This is Hunt Palmer.
Number 2, Tuesday edition of the Hunt Palmer Show, 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge. Got a lot to do in this second hour. LSU picked up a safety commitment yesterday. We'll talk about it in 15 minutes. Sharief, Ishaq, 30 minutes from right now, talking Saints coaching search. Where do they go from here? I gave you my thoughts on Mike McCarthy back in hour number 1. LSU and Arkansas from the PMAC tonight. Pair of 0-3 teams in Southeastern Conference play, desperate for their first win. Curtis Wilkerson covers said Razorbacks and does so for Inside Arkansas, is also the host of the pod at the Palace. He joins us now on the Jim's Firearms Hotline. Curtis, how are you?
I'm doing good. Happy to be on with you, and I think you nailed it right there at the top. A couple of 0-3 teams. Somebody's going to get a dub tonight.
Yeah, it appears that way. It's been a while for both of these two teams. I'm curious what the mood is in Fayetteville at this point. I know there was a lot of excitement when the announcement was made. John Calipari was headed to Fayetteville. He brought a lot of really big-time talent in, but it hasn't gotten off to a great start in league play. So what are the vibes up there in Northwest Arkansas?
Yeah, I think people did a good job of being patient for a while after the 0-3 start. There's definitely some frustration starting to set in, becoming a little bit more vocal out there on social media, and rightfully so. You know, it's an interesting situation here. John Calipari comes over. Obviously, that comes with a lot of a spotlight, a lot of publicity, and high expectations. Because you can say what you want about the NCAA tournament success, or maybe the lack thereof, the last few years, but it's an active Hall of Fame head coach. He's won a lot of games, wildly successful in the SEC and in the regular season. And then, it was pretty heavily publicized there that he had a pretty hefty NIL bag that he was able to dish out there to put this roster together. So it came with expectations. And so far, and there are a lot of reasons why this is the case, but it just hasn't quite gone according to plan. And the 0-3 start to SEC play, I don't think it's that necessarily that has people a little bit freaked out, because it's been rough. On the road at Tennessee, Ole Miss and Florida, both really, really good teams that they lost close games to, but it's more or less they're just not passing the eye test. It's been a rough watch. This Arkansas team, I think, is very clearly just not as far along as they need to be in terms of gelling and coming together and just looking like a cohesive unit out there. It's really showed on the offensive end of the floor. And, when you're not meeting expectations, people want to know what's going on. And I think that's kind of where folks are at right now. And winning cures all. So I think they're very much in the mode of whatever they got to do to win one, whether it's pretty or not, they need to get that done tonight.
You look at them on the offensive end, as you mentioned, it hasn't passed the eye test. Is it turnovers? Is it missed shots? Is it poor inability to get shots? What's plaguing them?
inability to get shots. I think you nailed it right there. Yeah, that's the interesting thing about this team is we're just now getting to the point where they've got all 9 of their expected rotation guys available. It's been something the entire year. You know, John L. Davis had a wrist injury at the beginning of the season. Jonas Adu was out with foot surgery. Those are their 2 big-time transfer additions, and neither one of them were available in the preseason. So you get those guys up to speed, and Trevor Brazile misses time with an ankle injury. Zvonimir Ibisic in the front court has an ankle injury. He misses time. The team goes through the flu bug, goes across the roster. So they really haven't had a lot of time where they've had their full complement of players out there. So you would think it'd be real sloppy, right? But they're actually not turning it over much at all. The problem is, or I guess we'll start with the good thing, when Arkansas gets out in transition, they're really, really good. Super athletic. They convert with numbers. They play above the rim. And they can be a lot of fun to watch. But when teams are able to get back, set their defense, and make Arkansas execute in the half court, nothing really comes easy for them. And that's been especially the case in the SEC play. They haven't been able to get a lot done there. Freshman point guard Boogie Flange has been so good a vast majority of the season. He's going through that learning curve. The SEC has not been kind to him early on. And as Boogie goes, Arkansas goes. That's kind of been the case. And he's been struggling. Some other guys have been struggling, and they haven't really been in a situation where they can create good looks. And the ones they do, they haven't been able to knock them down. It's been a rough go, averaging about 60 points per game through 3 SEC games, shooting at 20% from 3, about 35% from the field. It's been ugly, to say the least.
You mentioned Fland. I've really liked watching him early in his college career. He leads all freshmen in the country in assists, and he's scoring 15 a night. But as you mentioned, the first 3 in SEC play haven't been quite as smooth. When he is playing well, what do you see?
Oh, he's just got some swagger to his game. He really does. A lot of fun to watch. You know, he's become kind of an overall playmaker for Arkansas. That was one of the question marks coming into the season was, did they really have a point guard, a table setter for this team? And he's done a good job, I think, of balancing, knowing that he's a guy who can score, one of the few guys on this roster that can kind of create, get his own shot, but also make his teammates better and get them involved. You mentioned leading freshman in assists. He's done a really, really nice job of that. I think he's at his best when he's shooting it from 3 confidently, and he shot about 40% from beyond the arc. In non-conference play, only 5 of 20 through 3 SEC games. So I think the physicality has been an adjustment for him so far. When you got to see Zakai Ziegler in your first SEC game, you'll have to grow up pretty quick there. So I think he's making that adjustment to the physicality. That's the biggest thing for me that I see in terms of him needing to pick it up a little bit. But SEC teams have done a good job, I think, of speeding him up. And he's kind of gone into the mode of scorer as opposed to point guard. And I think it's been a product of Arkansas's been down. They haven't been able to get much going through their half-court offense. And he just feels like he needs to go out there and make a play. And maybe it's not necessarily what they need from him right now.
LSU's just been awful taking care of the basketball. They're just turning it over way, way too much in league games. Does Arkansas have the ability to do that to you defensively?
They absolutely do, yeah. And that's, when Arkansas is at their best, it's very, very clear. They're creating some havoc on the defensive end of the floor. They've got some really, really good individual defensive pieces. Boogie Flan, not the most physical guy, but he's really instinctual, can get out in the passing lanes. Adu Thero, I think probably one of the more versatile defenders in the country. He can guard all 5 positions. And DJ Wagner, he's kind of that tough, strong, physical on-ball defender that can really make guys uncomfortable. They block a lot of shots, and at times they can get a lot of steals. And when they're able to do that and get out in transition, that's how you can see, an Arkansas team that goes to Madison Square Garden and beats a team like Michigan. And it's because they're able to fuel their offense through their defense. So it's not something they've done at the level that they want to or that they had in non-conference throughout the course of SEC play so far. But when they played their best basketball, that's definitely been a big part of the equation for them.
I think that's sounding like a key. If LSU turns it over a bunch and lets Arkansas get out and run, it could be big, big trouble. If LSU is able to get shots up instead of defense, maybe that's where Arkansas struggles a little bit more. One more stat I wanted to look at, Curtis, and we appreciate your time. LSU's also had a real struggle on the defensive glass. Teams have offensive rebounded them to death, including a tiny Vanderbilt team. I look at Arkansas's size, and I go, that should be a really good offensive rebounding team. Statistically, 251st in the country. How do you feel about their ability to rebound?
Boy, it sounds like we're talking into a mirror here. It's interesting. Arkansas has really, really struggled with keeping teams off of the offensive glass themselves. Tennessee had 24 offensive rebounds against them. Florida had 16 the other day. But yeah, it has been kind of fascinating because you're right. This is a team that's long and athletic, and you would think that they would be really imposing on the offensive glass, and they haven't been a majority of the season. Now, I think a decent amount of that is that, Jonas Adu is obviously your best rebounder, at least from an overall production standpoint in the past. And he just hasn't played that much. He was out with a foot injury. He tried to come back early in the year. Wasn't quite right. They shut him down for a couple weeks, and now he's just now kind of getting back to 100%. So it's better with him out there on the floor for sure. Trevor Brazile is a guy who's really starting to come into his own. I think he's starting to find his role, and part of that is being active on the offensive glass. And, of course, Adu Thiero, kind of an elite-level athlete that can really help him there. So it hasn't been a huge part of their game. It is getting better. One thing I will point out is that, Florida got 16 offensive rebounds against Arkansas. That's one of the best rebounding teams in the country. Arkansas got 15 offensive rebounds against them. So I think they're making a more concerted effort to do that. They had the goal of trying to rebound 40% of their misses coming into the season. That's pretty lofty. That would put them up there at the top of the country. They've fallen short of that, but they're certainly showing signs of life on the offensive glass, I guess you could say.
Calipari's had teams that have done it. I'll never forget looking up statistics on that one Willie Cauley-Stein team that was just huge. Rebounded more than half their misses, which is almost impossible to think about. But he can do it when he puts that talent together. Curtis, we appreciate your time here on this Tuesday. Enjoy the basketball tonight.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me on. Appreciate you.
Curtis Wilkerson, managing editor, Intide Arkansas, host of the pod at the Palace. He, John Neighbors and company do a great job post-game putting together their post-game shows. And I've had a chance to listen to a few of them after some Arkansas games this year. They do an awesome job. As I look at this sheet with Arkansas, and we're going to put this game to bed, I promise. We're not going to talk about it the last 45 minutes of the show. It really is a testament to how good this league is that I can look at this team with Boogie Fland, the number one point guard in the country coming out of high school last year, talking about Adu Thiero, who comes over from Kentucky, 6'6", can guard all five positions, versatile, former four-star player. DJ Wagner, big-time recruit at Kentucky a couple of years ago. Jonas Adu started some games for Tennessee over the last couple of years. Trevor Brazile has been a presence in the league for 2 years when healthy. Big freak athlete that's going to be a probably first, second-round NBA pick. That's a really talented group of players here. They're 0-3, and they haven't really had the ball with the chance to win any of the games. Tennessee just crushed them, and then they have Florida and Ole Miss come into Fayetteville and win games by 7 and 8. I know that nobody really cares at LSU right now, like that the league's good. They just want LSU to get better, and I get that. But it does, at points I just look and I go, good grief. Like, this is a team that has some real dudes on it. I've covered the SEC in basketball when it stinks. When you've got 5 teams that are awful out there. It's just not the case. And I still don't think LSU is awful. I think LSU might be the 16th ranked team in the league. I think it's possible. But I watched them in the pre-conference not stub their toe against any of the terrible teams and beat some middling Power 5 teams. Like, they're not an awful team. You plug LSU into the ACC, I think they can compete. You plug LSU into the Big 12, like, they'll probably go to Lawrence and get hammered, but I think they could compete more often than not. They're just in a league that's really good. They got a chance to win tonight. Let's hope they can do it. 8 o'clock tip from the PMAC. Let's step aside. When we come back, LSU made an addition in the secondary. Are they done there? What does that group look like? We'll talk about it next.
The Hunt Palmer Show.
Audio Video Security Solutions, avssla.com is the website. Check out the Instagram. Great feed over there for the folks at Audio Video Security Solutions. It's at AVSS_BR. They can do easy stuff like whole home audio, the ability to use multiple speakers throughout the home. They've got some more advanced technology like some whole home automation to control lighting and shade and volume. They can do voice automation. Hey, let's watch a movie, and all the curtains come down, the room goes dark, the television comes on, the speakers perk up, and we can control everything in our house that they've installed. And trust me, they went on the low end technically for us, but we can control it all on the apps on our phone, including changing the channel on the television. So sometimes the 3-year-old loses the remote. It's happened before. I can control it all with my phone. It's really, really convenient. We appreciate Mitchell Fisher for all the work he has done at the Palmer home. They're happy to help you as well. It's audio video security solutions right here in Baton Rouge. You can call Mitchell's cell phone number 225-439-7920. Again, 225-439-7920. It's avssla.com online. Audio video security solutions, avssla.com.
This is the Hunt Palmer Show on 104.5 ESPN, Baton Rouge.
Talk to Sharief Ishaq in 12 minutes about the Saints coaching search. What does he think about Mike McCarthy? What does he think about Joe Brady? Is Aaron Glenn still in the mix? Who else may the New Orleans Saints be targeting? We'll do all that in 12 minutes with Sharief. Yesterday, right when we got off the air, LSU secured another transfer portal commitment from NC State defensive back Tamarcus Cooley. Cooley played a lot in the nickel for NC State this past year. His Pro Football Focus grades are fantastic. We've actually gone over those a couple times on this show, but graded out in the 80s against the run and in coverage, which is very, very difficult to do. He's not the most physically imposing dude in the world at just 5'11", but he's 205 pounds, put together pretty well, and not afraid at all to get in there and mix it up against the run, and he'll also cover. And I've contended that I felt like there was a good chance that based on who else LSU could add, that would kind of dictate where Mansour Delane was moved around. And I feel like now that you've got Cooley in the fold and that a lot of people feel like he's going to play safety for LSU, you're starting to see the defensive backfield now truly take shape for Corey Raymond, for Jake Olson, and this group on the LSU secondary side of things. You look at the corner, the boundary corners. You've got Ashton Stamps, you've got DJ Pickett, you've got Jakeem Jackson, and I feel like those three guys are slotted in as potential starters. And I think you put Mansour Delane in that conversation as well. He might be a nickel, he might be a safety, he could play on the outside, but I feel like really on the outside, Stamps, Pickett, and Jakeem Jackson. You've got Aiden Anding and PJ Woodland, who I'm going to put kind of right off to the side for right now, but those guys are in the conversation as well. You start to talk about nickel, and I think it starts with Mansour Delane and Javian Toviano. Delane has more skins on the wall, has certainly played more, has been far more productive, I think is probably a better player at this point, but you have two guys for that spot. I honestly have no real idea what LSU is going to do with Juwan Johnson. Like, he played the star role last year in fall camp, and then all of LSU's running backs got hurt, so he had to go play running back. I don't know what the future holds for him, so I'll mention him and then kind of leave that there. But right now, Toviano and Delane right around the line of scrimmage at nickel, maybe star. And then you move back to the actual safety level, and that's Deshaun Spears, Jordan Gilbert, and now Tamarcus Cooley. I think that is a vastly improved secondary. I do. I think you are more talented at corner than you were last year, and I think you have more options than you did last year. That is putting a lot of eggs in Jakeem Jackson and DJ Pickett's baskets. I get it. Jakeem Jackson was hurt all last year, but he was a starter for Florida prior to that. And right now, I'm going to put DJ Pickett in the conversation with Eli Ricks, with Derek Stingley, with Patrick Peterson, with these number one corners that LSU has brought in. They all played pretty quickly. And maybe that's unfair, maybe it's not, but the recruiting rankings are similar for these guys. It's big, long, physical length, great speed, has been a 5-star for a year and a half. Like, maybe he's not ready to play, and that could be, but he's going to get a whole spring to go through spring football. He's got a summer with the team in conditioning, and he'll have been on campus for over 8 months when LSU plays their first game against Clemson. So right now, I feel pretty good about that group at corner. I think that Delane makes a ton of sense at nickel. And then you move Cooley back to safety. I think he is absolutely a big-time upgrade. And then you let Jordan Gilbert and Deshaun Spears kind of fight it out. And I think that, to me, looks like a group that should be playoff worthy. I think oftentimes the two secondaries that I immediately the three secondaries I point to are 03, 11, and 19. That's the elite of the elite. The 03 team had Corey Webster, a longtime NFL player, had Travis Daniels, a longtime NFL player, had LaRon Landry, who as a freshman led that team in tackling and was a great player in the NFL. And then you had Jack Hunt out there with Randall Gay. Gay was an NFL player, and Jack Hunt was a really good college player back there at safety for LSU. That was a great LSU secondary. You go back to 11, that's as good as it really gets. You've got Morris Claiborne, who's as good a cover guy as there was in the country that year. You add him with Daryl Simon and Tyrann Mathieu on the corners. They were fantastic, both NFL players. You had Eric Reed back there at safety with Brandon Taylor, NFL players. Like, that was as good a secondary as LSU's ever fielded in 2011. But in 2019, you fielded a group that had NFL starters, including an all-pro, on one corner with Stingley as a freshman, and then you had a really good off corner in Christian Fulton, who's still in the NFL and playing well. And then at safety, you had Grant Delpit, who is a stud, the Thorpe winner there, and is an NFL guy. That's that type of talent. I didn't even mention Ron Brooks on the 11 team, who was an NFL player. That type of talent is what we have seen LSU produce over the years. This is not that to me, but it could be playoff worthy. And that's kind of what we're looking at right now. They're trying to raise the talent level of the team. Far too often over the last 2 Augusts, when I've been out at camp and I've left practice and I've come here, I've seen people in public, whether it's at birthday party or a restaurant or via text message or whatever the case may be, and I'll get people to say, what do you think about the team? And I just look at I just don't know if they've got the talent level that we're accustomed to with the LSU teams that were consistently top 10 teams in the country. And I think you're getting closer here. I mean, I think it stands to reason there's a reasonable chance that DJ Pickett, Ashton Stamps, Jakeem Jackson, Mansour Delane, Tamarcus Cooley, Deshaun Spears are NFL-type talents. Do they get there or not? I'm not sure. But it stands to reason that they certainly could be. And you hope that Pickett develops into a superstar. That's the highest end talent that you have. But while you grow those guys up, you bring in guys who have played a ton of football in Cooley and Delane to help foster them along and give you a higher floor. LSU's floor in the defensive backfield the last 2 years has been way too low. And that's what some of these guys are here to do. I'm certainly, and I don't want it to sound like I'm dismissing the careers of P.J. Woodland and Aiden Anding. I'm not. I'm just assessing it the way that I see it. And all the time, there are 3-star, 4-star recruits that bust the door down and become early starters. The guy that comes immediately to my mind when I think about that is Jalen Mills, who was not thought of as the same type of recruit as the Patrick Petersons and the Derek Stingleys and the Kevin Tollivers and the Eli Ricks and the Grant Delpits and the Eric Reeds. He was just a 4-star kid from Texas, and he showed up and he started as a freshman and he never left the field, and he still plays in the NFL. And that stuff happens all the time. And if Ashton Stamps has that sort of development, or P.J. Woodland in his second year becomes that kind of dude, or Aiden, I'm not going to dismiss that could happen. But you've got enough depth around those guys to where you've got enough secondary players to put 5 or 6 good ones out there. I just listed 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 DBs. 10. I need 5 of those guys to be good players. That's half. Half. And you're in a much better spot than you have been. I think that the game specifically this year was boiled more so down to the line of scrimmage, and I think the teams that you had left in the Final Four are just ridiculous on the line of scrimmage, and that's really, really important, but you still got to cover. And you still got to make plays outside on offense. And I think LSU's got a better chance to cover with this group than they have the last 2 years. Tamarcus Cooley comes in from NC State, played a lot of football and graded out really well on Pro Football Focus. The hope is that you've got another guy in the mold of Jarek Bernard Converse who played at a different level in a different conference, that can come in, be a high-level player, and go on to be an NFL player for you. That's certainly the hope, as Tamarcus Cooley pledges to LSU. It doesn't sound like the Tigers are done in the secondary. They may be looking at another option at safety or nickel as we move forward here. We'll keep you posted if we hear anything here or on LouisianaSports.net. Sharief Ishaq covers the Saints for WDSU. What's going on with this black and gold coaching search? We'll talk to Sharief coming up next.
The Hunt Palmer Show.
Genesis of Baton Rouge, genesisofbatonrouge.com. Look, your buying experience at Genesis of Baton Rouge is going to be luxury in every way. You're going to feel like a guest at their dealership, not a customer. Their brand ambassadors are going to help you every single step of the way. That may be inside the store, which, by the way, is gorgeous. It may be outside the store. If you choose to have them come to you, they can do e-contracts, digital delivery. They can drop the car off at your home or your work, and you never have to set foot on the dealership. It's that kind of convenience, that kind of customer service and customer care that Genesis absolutely prides itself on. Give them a shot. Either go to the dealership online at genesisofbatonrouge.com or go see them on Airline near Pico. If you're looking for a car in Baton Rouge, a lot of times you end up on Airline Highway. Just make one more turn and check them out on Pico and see what Genesis has to offer you. From the sedans all the way up to the SUVs, phenomenal line of vehicles, comfortable, sleek, stylish, very, very safe. It's a luxury vehicle at a reasonable price. It's Genesis of Baton Rouge. Every car on the lot is online at genesisofbatonrouge.com.
You're listening to The Hunt Palmer Show on 104.5 ESPN, Baton Rouge.
Work week's off to a good start. Chilly Tuesday here in the capital city. We've talked about LSU and Arkansas hoops, talked some LSU football there. We've been talking about the black and gold as they try to inch closer and closer to a new head coach. We know that they've interviewed a number of candidates. Mickey Loomis met with the media yesterday. Sharief Ishaq covers the black and gold for WDSU. He's with us every single Tuesday. Sharief, how are you?
I'm well.
I'm glad to hear that. It sounds like you're doing awesome.
Yeah, still processing Mickey Loomis' press conference.
Let's talk about that. What'd you think? He had a lot to say.
He had not really. He said almost the same thing over and over and over and over and over again. Really didn't say much until the very end. But, you know, I left thinking there's a lot of unresolved issues still. I mean, double down on Dennis Allen being a good coach, double down on look beyond the results, doubling down on, like, no accountability, doubling down on a lot of denial. I mean, this franchise is not really in a good spot. I know he says it's in a good spot, but, you know, looking at the roster, what happened last year, I mean, it's not in a good spot.
Do you believe if we got Mickey Loomis to truthfully answer the question, that he really believes that he had a really good coach, a really good roster, and it just all got derailed by injuries, and if not for that, the Saints would have been a really good team this year? Do you think he really believes that?
Yeah, absolutely, no doubt. I mean, he said it yesterday. I mean, he went to bat for Derek Carr, saying if he doesn't get hurt, you know, you never know. I mean, he was eligible for somewhat passionate. He was trying to compare his completion percentage, or trying to say he would have had a high completion percentage. I was a little thrown off by that because he would have been eligible if he had had a few more like snaps or games. Some of it I was like, man, I'm like, what is going on here? Just listening to it. At points in times, I was a little dumbfounded, to be honest with you. It was like that Billy Madison when they were doing the trivia, and Norm Macdonald, I forget who was the host on the show, was like, when he explained that answer, he's like, we are literally all stupider for listening to this.
Okay. I award you no points, and may God have mercy on your soul. Yeah. Is that what we're looking for? I mean, look, so I thought entering this season, the Saints did show a little bit of a different strategy in not signing free agents, not extending a bunch of contracts. It felt like they looked at it as a bit of a soft reset. Do you expect a change in what they do organizationally moving forward? Do you think there's a chance they trade back in the draft? Do you think they'll continue to let these contracts expire and not double down and try to extend them and do the salary cap gymnastics? Or do you think they're going to do the same thing that they've been doing for the last 10 years?
I think they're going to have to do somewhat of a soft rebuild at least, man. They have to at this point. I mean, they're $65 million over the cap. They a lot of old veterans on who have big contracts. They have to do some kind of maneuvering, man. They have to do some kind of maneuvering way they fix this cap, because the next head coach is going to be straddled with at least one bad season next year and some bad contracts, and then they have to move on. They have to restructure. Somebody's going to have to take some pay cuts. We already know Derek Carr isn't taking a pay cut.
Yeah.
It's just finding it. It's like finding where you can do this without continuing to kick stuff down the road and inflating this salary cap that, has been an issue. But hey, at least it isn't $100 million like it was a few years ago.
Yeah, just down in the 60s. Anything else that you took from Mickey before we start getting into potentially who the Saints could hire? How do you feel like he thinks that the Saints present themselves as an opportunity to the next coach?
There was two different questions about that. One was asked, is it an attractive job? And he said yes, because of the owner, the stability, which he's right. The owner, Gail, is a good owner. And she doesn't get in the way. Maybe sometimes people would like for her to get involved, but look at Dallas. Look at Jerry Jones, a total disaster over there. I'm not sure if you really want your owner involved in every single thing. Stability, yeah, they have stability for the most part. Yeah, they do. And then the fan base, that's the one thing. But another question was asked, you have to sell it to the candidate. And he's like, no, I really don't think this is a selling process. You have to sell it. I think this is more of like we are interviewing each other. We have to find, the right coach. And look, the pressure's on for Mickey Loomis to find the right coach, and they have to get back on track. It's about as simple as I can put it. And he actually, Fletcher asked him a question about, you can now say after firing Dennis and having a 5-12 season, can you admit that you have a problem? And yeah, but he also said it's not just Dennis. It was everyone from top to bottom. But then he went into the injuries again, and that's when you got the whole look beyond the results. Sometimes It's not really the results. You know the story by then with the results thing. But yeah, and that's what I kind of took from it. The coach is going to have to say so, and his staff and the quarterback. And that's the thing I'm looking forward to the most when they hire a coach. Is it going to be that guy who can keep or, go Derek Carr or go somebody else? That's what I'm looking forward to seeing.
That part of it, because you feel like they're so hamstrung by the salary cap next year. I mean, I don't know that. I mean, obviously, if you let go of Derek Carr entering the 25 season, you're not going to have him in 26. But I don't think you're going to have him in 26 anyway. So if the season's not going to be that great, I'm not as concerned with that. Do you think we'll get resolution on that really quickly?
Here's the thing. It's going to be tough to get rid of Derek because of the $51 million cap hit, and already him already saying, I am not taking a pay cut. So something has to give at some point. Like, I don't know how this is going to work out. Like, you can just do what the Broncos did with Russell Wilson and say bye and eat the cap hit and just go draft a rookie quarterback, do something. I mean, I'm not saying you should draft a quarterback in this draft because it's not that great. Let's be honest. Or you can just go with Spencer Rattler and just see what happens in 25. And if it goes south, you're getting a top 3 pick and you draft a quarterback like Arch or Drew Aller or Garrett Nussmeier, somebody. So it's a tough one to think about with the $51 million cap hit.
It is. That part of it will work itself out eventually. Let's talk about some of the names that have surfaced. What has stood out to you about the names that the Saints have brought in?
It's comfortable versus uncomfortable, knowing versus not knowing. The franchise loves being, comfortable with people they know. So there are guys out there, Mike McCarthy, Aaron Glenn, even Joe Brady. They do know Joe Brady. And I would say those are your 3. Those are probably your top 3. And if you ask me to put it in what order, if you ask me to put it in my order, I would go Joe Brady, Aaron Glenn, Mike McCarthy. Their order is probably Mike McCarthy, Aaron Glenn, Joe Brady. So I prefer to let's go out of the box. Let's go some 35-year-old hot shot give him a chance to prove himself, give him a few years with Joe Brady, let him be an innovative young offensive mind, let him do his thing like he's done in Buffalo. Didn't succeed in Carolina, but who succeeded there with Matt Rule? That was a terrible situation. Yes, he has Josh Allen, but still, a lot of good offensive coordinators usually have good quarterbacks, good offenses, good receivers. You got to give him a chance eventually. So I go with the young, up-and-coming offensive mind. I like Aaron Glenn, too, who's got some skins on the wall, and he's been through it in Detroit and revived that program alongside of Dan Campbell. So, and this year has been great because he's played with a lot of guys who have injured, and look how far they've gotten this year with all the injuries they've had in his defense. I'd be fine with either one, but yes, I'll go Joe Brady just because it's a little bit outside the box and it's an offense. You don't have to recycle guys. You don't have to recycle an offensive coordinator. You got a play caller there with Joe Brady.
Why do you think Mike McCarthy would top the Saints' internal list?
Well, because of his ties here, being the offensive coordinator back in 2004. So that to them, and he's been there, done that. But to me, I'm like recycling the coach. Been in the league, 18 years. You compare his record to Sean Payton's record, it's almost the same. Same amount of Super Bowls, two great quarterbacks. His stint in Dallas is what it is. You're working with Jerry Jones, and Jerry, he can be tough at times, but he's won. Yeah, he's won. But how is he going to handle the draft process? How is he going to handle does he get any say so in drafting and player personnel? How is his offense going to be without a top tier quarterback? That's a lot of questions you have to ask. Look what he's had. He's had Dak and he's had Aaron. Those are two good quarterbacks, great quarterbacks, and he's not walking into a great quarterback situation. So it could take him a little while. Does he have the patience? I mean, does his game translate into a franchise like this right now? I just have a lot of questions. Now, I'm not saying he's a bad head coach. I'm just saying maybe he's not the right head coach.
All right, what do we think about timeline here? We figured the Lions are going to be around for potentially another week. Let's see if Jaden can do. But do you think that it's got to... What are you looking at timeline here?
I would say, look, Hunt, it's got to be with a week before or after the Super Bowl. Leading into the Super Bowl or after the Super Bowl. Because you have to interview two in person. You have to have two interviews in person before you make a hire. And I think those two interviews have to be minority candidates too. So they still haven't done any in-person interviews. So they have to go through that process. And I'm seeing the reports that Mike McCarthy is going to interview next week. So, and then you go from there. I mean, are they going to be comfortable with Mike next week? Maybe, but they still have to go through the entire process. And that's one thing that Mickey said yesterday. They're going to go through their process regardless of what happens with another franchise hiring a coach. They want to make sure they do it their way, go through the entire process. So it could take another 3 weeks. It could take a month, for all I know. Last time, whenever they named Dennis Allen the head coach, I think it was right after the Super Bowl. So that would be my gut, would be around right after the Super Bowl. Another 3 weeks.
If you get a Bills-Lions Super Bowl and you're hiring one of Glenn or Brady, you can just walk them right off the stage over down to the press room and just do it there.
I mean, I would be great with that. Have nothing wrong.
All right, he's Sharief Ishaq, WDSU. We'll talk next week. Thanks, man.
Anytime, Hunt. Always
enjoy our chats with Sharief, even if he doesn't give us very enthusiastic. I'm fine at the beginning of the interview, but it happens sometimes. But it's I'm fascinated by this whole coaching search thing and the twists and turns that have happened along the way. We'll see how the resolution shakes out over the next couple of weeks. Let's come back and close it out next.
The Hunt Palmer Show.
Boudreaux's Electrical Services. Neil and Melissa have been running the shop 40 years down there in Napoleonville. Justin, their son, now taking the reins. Every single Generac home standby generator that you purchase from the folks at Boudreaux's Electrical is going to come with a 7 to 10 year warranty. 7 to 10 years of the peace of mind of knowing the power is not going to go out on you. If you're a homeowner, obviously look into this, especially if you're someone who works from home. You can't have these summer thunderstorms coming through here in a few months, and you're at home trying to get some work done, and the power goes out for 4 hours. It happens down here in South Louisiana. Give yourself the peace of mind to know it's not going to happen at your house. That generator coming back on, it's one of the greatest sounds in the world when the power does go off and you hear that generator firing up and everything comes on. It's a really depressing sound to hear if you're like in my old house where the next door neighbor had the generator and I didn't. So when the power went out at my house, you just heard theirs powering up and we were just stuck in the dark. That's not great. You can change it for yourself. Boudreaux's Electrical, you can find them at 985-397-1562. Again, 985-397-1562 or 225-300-9389 in Gonzales. That's 225-300-9389. That's Boudreaux's Electrical, boudreauxelectrical.com.
Progressive presents.
This is the Hunt Palmer Show on 104.5 ESPN, Baton Rouge.
Congratulations to our grand prize college football bowl pick'em challenge winner, Mark Mancuso. Mark wins $1,000 cash and a $200 gift card from Hooters. $2,000 would be a lot. Thanks for playing the Hooters College Football Bowl Pick'em Challenge presented by Yingling. And we've got the NFL on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge. All of the playoffs coming to you this Saturday at 3:30. Chiefs and Texans. Then the Commanders, Jaden Daniels and Lions at 7. Then Sunday, the Vikings or Rams and the Eagles. Well, it's actually going to be the Rams. The Vikings lost. Not a very good game for the Vikings there at 2 p.m. Then the Ravens and Bills at 5:30. That's your home for the NFL playoffs and Super Bowl 59, 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
How'd you think that promo went?
Not that bad, actually.
Just one team wrong?
Well, this was written yesterday, so they didn't know if the Vikings or Rams had won. So that's the
I'm really upset right now.
About what?
Sharief had breaking news. It's published out on Twitter, on the website, WDSU.com. Breaking news by Sharief Ishaq, and he doesn't tell us.
That's that's going to be a problem. We're going to have to talk to him about that.
That's very poor form by Sharief. We should be the first to know, not the website, not the Twitter folks that deal with his actual business, the people here that listen to him every week.
Yes. And we compensate him very well for his appearances here.
We do. He has received a grand total of, let me carry the $0 over the course of 4 years. Blake Dean is leaving the UNO baseball program to pursue an opportunity outside of baseball. Blake and Sharief have known each other since Blake Dean's days playing here in Baton Rouge. And Sharief is reporting that Blake did a really good job taking over for Ron Maestri at UNO. He had a winning record overall, 256, 220, and 1. He won more than he lost in the Southern Conference, 122 and 113. They had a winning record 8 of his 9 seasons on the lakefront, won 30 games 5 different times. That's a really difficult job, UNO. It's really underfunded, and that athletic program had a really hard time coming back from Katrina over the years. Now, you had a really good run from Coach Schlesinger in basketball. Did a great job there, and I thought Blake did a really good job in baseball. It's curious timing, and I'm sure that Blake doesn't love the fact that he's leaving right here a month before the season starts. That's really tough on that program, but I'm assuming that this is an opportunity that couldn't wait until June. So I don't know what it is. It doesn't suggest what it is, but Blake Dean, one of the great players in the history of LSU baseball, has been the head coach there at UNO for 9 seasons, and he will be stepping aside to pursue an opportunity outside of baseball. So Sharief Ishaq with that story at WDSU, just didn't feel the need to tell us about it here on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge. We got a couple minutes. Let's do Take It or Leave It.
Take it or leave it.
Take it or leave it.
Today's hottest stories in sports, news, and sometimes even Hunt's life. The question is, will he take them or leave them?
Just take it.
All righty, first one here. FBS coaches voted today in favor of a proposal that would reduce college football's transfer windows down to a single 10-day period in January in an effort to preserve the integrity of the bowl season and put guardrails on a system many coaches have lamented as entirely broken. This is from ESPN. One transfer window. Take it or leave it.
I'll take it.
I'll take it.
Do it. School starts pretty quick, so you're going to have to figure out when you're going to do that, and there still is a playoff. I mean, LSU started school yesterday. We still have a playoff game to play. I realize that only affects literally 2 programs out of all of them, and we probably can't tailor the rules just for that, but it's the same thing that, like, college baseball coaches are trying to assemble their next season while they're in Omaha getting ready for a game. That's not great either. So there are issues, and if they can work that out, I'm good with it, but you've got to deal with school here as well, which is something they've got to consider.
The next one here, Eagles coach Nick Sirianni defended receiver A.J. Brown after he was seen reading a book on the sideline during their 22-10 win over the Packers. Sirianni said it was, quote, lazy to assume Brown was doing this as a show of frustration, as he was only targeted 3 times in that game. Reading on the sideline, take it or leave it.
I'll take it. I don't care what. I'd rather probably that you talk to the quarterback or see what you can do to stay involved in the game. But if you need to chill out and read something, I don't have a massive problem with that. Now, if you get a delay of game because you can't put the book down and get on the field, I guess we'll have a conversation. But as long as, I don't know what the difference is between that. And staring at the iPad and film, you're just not playing at the moment, so I'm good with it. It is whatever.
Yeah, I'm with you on that too.
I won't be reading a book during that time, but it is what it is.
The last one, rumors are beginning to swirl that Deion Sanders could be a potential head coach candidate for the job in Dallas. Sanders said, quote, "To hear from Jerry Jones is truly delightful and it's intriguing. I love Jerry and believe in Jerry. After you hang up and process it and think about it, it is intriguing. Deion and Jerry, take it or leave it."
I'll take it. Those two are kindred spirits, I think. They've both had a ton of success in their lives, and they both think a lot of themselves personally. So those kind of go hand in hand oftentimes. I don't think he's going to get the Cowboys job.
Probably not.
But I think that's Jerry Jones just making that phone call because they've got such a great relationship, and that's just kind of one of the things that you do. So that's it for a Tuesday edition of the Hunt Palmer Show. Beck, does LSU beat Arkansas tonight in the PMAC?
No.
That's real confident of you.
I want to say that LSU is going to win, but I don't know how I can
Are you calling an 0-18?
No.
It's on the table.
It's on the table, of course. They haven't won yet, so it's possible.
I hope they win. I'm not picking them to win. I'm not picking them to lose. I'm opting out of the selection for this game. I'm opting out of the selection in this game, but I'll be there, and I'll write about it for LouisianaSports.net. You can check that out. We're done. If you missed anything, catch it on demand wherever you find your sound. Back tomorrow. Matt's going to drive you home next. It's AFR on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
The Hunt Palmer Show.